So rebuilding your identity. Yikes! You've seen yourself through this one prism for what seems like forever. Maybe you're a wife, a husband, a parent, an executive, a caregiver. Your very identity is wrapped up in this role. And all of a sudden, that thing that made you you is gone. But you're not. You're still here. You're still kicking, as my dad would say. How do you move forward? Today we're going to talk about making the pivot from looking backward to looking forward. It's a hard pivot for a lot of us, and we can spend so much time looking backward that we miss something really important: our future. During this episode, I'm going to share how God helped me pivot from focusing on the pain of my past by helping me overcome the fear of my future and rebuilding my life as a single woman and mother after my breakup with Mr. Conditional. But before I do that, I want you to take a second to check this episode's show notes. We've created a link there making it possible for you to support God's Power Stories financially. If you've received any value in the content you're finding here, consider providing some value back to us by hitting that link. Thanks in advance. Does God seem hateful to you, like He's looking for ways to trip you up? Does the thought of opening His Word seem daunting and intimidating? Hi, I'm Anna, your host for God's Power Stories, where we connect with God's love through the power of His stories. I believe that God loves us more than we can comprehend, and we experience that love through stories. If you're here to connect through stories about the power of God, with the wind of the Holy Spirit at your back, you're in the right place. Let's let God light our path so we can take that next step toward the fullness of life He has planned for us. Grab your cup of coffee, that Diet Coke, or flavored water. Breathe. Let's dig in to God's Power Stories. You know, I learned so much about myself and about God since Mr. Conditional and I parted ways. There were parts of my learning that I really liked, experiences that were really fun, precious memories for me to this day. But there were also other parts, hidden parts, ugly parts, embarrassing parts that I would just as soon ignore, better yet, pretend that they had never existed. But they did exist. They were a part of my past. And the sooner I confronted them, the sooner I spoke truthfully about them, the sooner they would lose their power over me. Without being burdened by their weight, I could be free to move forward. But moving forward? Scary. After all, how could I be sure I wouldn't repeat the same mistakes I had in the past? How was I going to gain the confidence to actually move forward? How was I going to pivot from viewing myself as I had been to grasping the vision God had for me, transitioning into my new life as a single woman? I think these are pretty good questions, so let's break each one down one by one. The first question I asked was, how could I be sure I wouldn't repeat the mistakes of my past? The answer? By knowing the truth. Jesus promised us in the NIV version of John 8:32, "Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." This is the answer, folks. Know the truth about yourself. You know, this resource wasn't available when I was on my own transformational journey, but there is now a TED Talk out called The Secret Free Diet with Lori Gerber. In a nutshell, Lori reveals in her short 20-minute talk that everybody lies. Everybody. Including me, including you. She says babies lie when they fake cry. She says pigeons lie when they know they can get a treat for choosing red as a color on a test, for instance. Lori talks about 7 types of lies. Outright lies, lies of omission, so in other words, withholding the truth, lying by exaggeration, lying by under-exaggeration, lying by misrepresenting a story, lying by avoiding confrontation, and lying by keeping secrets that you're planning to take to the grave. So by now, you know my story well enough to realize I'd been lying to myself for a number of years in a number of different ways. Now, you might not think of all these types as lies. Well, call them whatever you want. But if you're not being 100% truthful with yourself over your situation, you're not free. And if you're not free, you're bound to repeat the same mistakes of your past. There's only one way around it, and that's through it, with pure, unadulterated truth. Now, it's really easy for me to see denial of the truth in others. Take Mr. Conditional as an example. I could look at him today and I could say that he'll never really, truly be able to move on to a fulfilling life until he's honest with himself over his past. Easy, clear as day. But to look at my past, to look at my failings, my own screw-ups, that's another thing entirely. But it must be done if I ever hope to make better choices in the future. In the end, I can't control whether someone else knows the truth. I can only control whether I know the truth about my own life. The next question I ask, how was I going to gain the confidence to actually move forward? The answer, by allowing God to reframe my future. So how would it look, this new me? Would God let me have a peek? Would he maybe dream with me? So maybe I could learn something new. During this time of transition, God allowed me to secure a new job in this new place, in my chosen field of study. He also placed me near people, both those I had known for years and new acquaintances who cared about me and wanted the best for me. He put me into a great church with supportive programs like Hope for the Single Again. Another thing I could do is act as if, and I have those 3 words in quotations, act as if. If I could walk with all the confidence of my dreams, could I act as if the confidence had already been attained? Could I smile, at least on occasion? Could I give myself permission to laugh? Could I open myself up to new learning experiences, but also celebrate those experiences I had already tackled? Could I name my weaknesses as well as my strengths, not in a condemning manner, but more as a measure of honesty and truthfulness with myself? All of these things spoke confidence to me, as much then as they do now. I could also celebrate small wins. I've heard it said that the brain pays attention to what you pay attention to. So, if I could start celebrating the wins, no matter how small, would my brain start looking for more and more ways to celebrate? Looking back on this time in my life, maybe I realized I got through the day without kicking myself over any past failures at all. That would have been a win. Maybe I got my paycheck and realized I had $10 that wasn't earmarked for anything. Woohoo! Maybe I chose to attend a Sunday evening church service instead of crawling into bed and blocking out the world with a big heavy blanket. Something's different. Something's better. Something's lighter. Something's easier. These are the things we celebrate. I could create new traditions. One of the things the kids and I did was to take advantage of the free stuff all around us in this new place we called home. There were scenic parks galore that we could walk or play in. We could ride our bikes for miles on the trails. We could enjoy festivals and parades and fireworks. We were surrounded by the Great Lakes, and it was all ours, free for the taking. One of our favorite traditions was the first day of spring. On that day, we would start dinner at the ice cream shop, and we would get whatever we wanted. Then we would have dinner. You know, I could also create new memories for triggering songs. Whereas the memories of my favorite riffs had historically involved Mr. Conditional, just tuning into them on the radio could trigger me into old memories and a past that I would rather forget. So, I would work to create new memories for those favorites. Could the kids and I have a dance party with all the songs of yesteryear? If so, that would eventually be my new memory for those songs as we slowly replace memories of more painful times. Finally, my last question, how was I going to pivot from viewing myself as I had been to grasping the vision God had for me, transitioning into my new life as a single woman? Answer, by reaching out and grabbing God's hand. I really wanted to live a life of no regrets. I made a personal commitment toward this at that time. I didn't want to badmouth Mr. Conditional, not to the kids or to others. I don't know if I was perfect with this, but I tried really hard to always present an objective, balanced story. Over time, the Lord changed my love for Mr. Conditional, moving it from a longing for reconciliation to a love where I quite frankly liked the distance, but at the same time wanted the best for him. It's funny how that can happen, but all credit goes to God and His transforming power over my life, the way it happened for me. I always wanted to take lessons with me from the breakup, things I learned about myself, things I learned about Mr. Conditional, things I learned about love, things I learned about life. I learned about my likes and dislikes, and I gained the courage to make my thoughts known. Respectfully, yes, but also unabashedly. I began to blossom, and it felt good, really good. You know, so often when we think of a breakup, we focus on what was taken from us. What if instead we focused on what the breakup has afforded us? What have we learned from it? If we shift our focus in just that one area, I think it could be the start of real healing. And I want to leave you with this closing thought. Maybe you've never suffered a breakup, but I doubt that you've gotten this far in life without suffering pain in one way or another from a relationship or from a screw-up or from a past regret. Our tendency is to beat ourselves up or suppress the pain or grow in bitterness over the situation. What if this is all bigger than flesh and blood? What if it's spiritual warfare? Think about this. The enemy has a vested interest in keeping you focused on the past. Why? Well, if he can keep you focused on things that have already occurred, that neither you nor he can do anything about, he doesn't have to worry about you noticing the vision God has cast for you. If he can keep you stuck on your past pain, you lose hope. If you lose hope, you could lose sight of God altogether. You do have control over this, my friend. Don't fear the pivot. You'll find life there. Hope. There are brighter days ahead. Okay, that's it for this episode. I'm so glad we had this time together today. Be blessed, my friend. Hey, real quick. If this episode blessed you in some way, I'd love it if you leave a written review for the show over on Apple Podcasts. These are like gold to me. Reviews help me know what you enjoy while providing insight on what you want to learn about. Also, take a screenshot of the review or this episode so that you can share it on your Facebook or Instagram stories. For Facebook, tag me at Anna Moore Bradfield Author. For Instagram, use Anna Moore Bradfield. When I share you back in my stories, both our lights will shine a little brighter. May you witness God's power in your life today, my friend.